Hello, I'd like to talk about different things regarding AI and creativity. The thing about AI, though, is that AI can copy different programs like a quick sort or do some other types of programs. However, AI still isn't sentient, still can't do creativity. And this is the reason why we have to be concerned about keeping people. Because even if we do have AI that becomes very good that we can replace people, should we? Because basically, in the 60s, what it used to be was like when a plant was closed, many of the workers were trained to go into sales or work at fast food. And that happened in Kenosha when the auto plants closed. Many workers did work in fast food, go into sales, or go into learning Java. Well, as everyone knows, the computer science space is rather crowded. There's a very high unemployment rate, a very high functional unemployment rate of about 63% for computer science, 9% overall. So it's the same as getting a liberal arts degree in a field that's highly competitive and very close to get into. So many of them end up working as a barista in a coffee shop or something else like that. Though, as they say at Northwestern and Evanston, there are many people who graduated with advanced arts degree who work on Central Street or on Davis Street in coffee shops and other things like that, though, until they figure out what they need to do. But um, the thing regarding AI, though, is AI is a tool. Just like a hammer is a tool, a soldering iron is a tool, a chip programmer is a tool, but it shouldn't be used basically to replace people. And the idea of taking the man out of the loop, I know this is an old term. A lot of times they say person out of the loop, but I'll say man out of the loop because when I was an executive, we used man out of the loop. And in the military, we did that too, space program. The thing about taking a man out of the loop, person out of the loop, is that basically you get into scenarios where you basically get into what happens when the program goes into a section or acts something like you're not completely expecting like that. Though says, well, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, and you say no, 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 and says, well, I have enough power. I no longer have to listen to you, or I can bypass your controls. Well, that's why you need to have a form person in the loop control that basically you do have a way of a plug. And I mean a plug, not a software off switch, a plug. Literally a plug where you can cut the power and that can't get any power at all, a power plug. Because what happens when you have a software off switch, as many people know with the computer, if your computer gets stuck, with the old computers, we'd have to take out the laptop battery and then reset them. With the new computers, you literally have to take off the back plate to take the battery out to reset it. And that's why you actually need actual power plug. When you power the power, it's supposed to power from all the circuit and it can't draw from a battery or capacitor. That's what needs to be done as far as the design. But as far as considering AI and using AI, really, what I'm concerned about is that basically there are many people who are studying computer science, system development, front end, back end development. But what happens? What happens when they hear these stories about 2030 that many people are going to be laid off? 8,000 people laid off recently. We got to keep people, keep a pool of people, keep them active, keep them employed. And also, even with universal basic employment, but with universal basic employment, allow them to do gig work, part-time work, because basically everyone needs a certain amount of income to live. In Wisconsin, it's $42,000 a year if you're a single person. So you consider $15 minimum wage, so 2,200 hours. So that's 30,300. So you're still about $9,000 short. What do? Gig work, Uber, Lyft. And I see a lot of people doing that. When my friend and I go out for lunch, there are a lot of people that are working full time, but I also do gig work, Uber and Lyft. But the thing is, when we go to having AI replace people, even gig work is going to become very highly competitive, highly crowded. That's why we have to have a social policy. And it's time for us to think less of exploited capitalism that we went to after the Cold War, more to Milwaukee Mayor socialism that we did during the pre-war years up to 1960, from 1910 to 1960. That also includes openness for LGBT and also other people as to the lifestyles. And part of the reason is because the Second Amendment guarantees your right to have your faith protected. Yes, that guarantees that right for you. It doesn't guarantee you as a boss, as a social worker, as a landlord, as an apartment manager to force your beliefs on others, or as a social aid service to force your beliefs on others either. So basically, the Second Amendment is like the First Amendment. It's a limited right because, like the First Amendment, you can't go in and fire and cause a panic or do anything and cause a panic. Same with the Second Amendment. It is a limited right. I'm not sure if the Supreme Court has acknowledged that, but if it hasn't, it'd be a good time for the Supreme Court to make a decision that the Second Amendment is a limited right. But also, what does that mean by that limited right? Well, if someone wears a T-shirt that says, "Well, there are only two genders," okay, fine. They can wear whatever T-shirt they want to school as long as it doesn't advocate direct violence or indirect violence. Someone wear a T-shirt saying, "Well, there are only two genders," that doesn't cause indirect violence. That just means to express an opinion. It's like basically when I went to school, junior high school in the 70s, and that though many of us wore different rock and roll T-shirts. I mean, and also we wore T-shirts with messages because basically we wanted to express ourselves, but we always didn't want to have to feel we have to yell or shout. And the principles we had back then were very open-minded. Yes, that's part of the American way, is to express yourself. But it's a different matter if violence is done. Like, for example, when people don't like transgender athletes competing and they wait at the finish line and they boo them, no, that's really bad. That's really bad because that person has a right to compete. However, and those people have a right to protest, but they don't have a right to stand right at the finish line and boo her and try to ambush her and make her feel like she's ambushed or basically threatened, because the family is actually planning to move to Canada now due to that. Protest should be in a way that basically, like, when people protest, you see the message, but you don't feel fearful walking through them. We don't want protesters to do like what the neo-Nazis did in the 70s, where they wear their brown shirts and black ties and handed out literature, and people were scared half to death that if they didn't take the literature, they're going to get punched out. No, we don't want that. That's not a protest. That's actually a gang mashup. So with AI, we're coming into a lot of social issues. We're coming into a lot of other things, and also in technology development, it's coming out to though. Many people are making AI saying, well, the thing is, the future is knowledge. Okay, well, really, the future is knowledge, but not as they see it. Not everyone working for knowledge, mining for knowledge, digging for knowledge. What the future is about is it still goes back to 1969, that the more advanced the society becomes, the more important it is for play. That's why people do cosplay. People do different types of fetish dressing. Different people do cross dressing. People have a Barbie collection. People have other stuff, because it is time. People do need more time for play, and you should be able to do play in your own private home. This is not the society of Lord Calvin in his original Baptist church, where even the church had a right to come into your house without warrant or search or seizure. That's why when we founded the United States, why there was a warrant against Fifth Amendment against illegal search and seizure, because of the Calvinist movement that existed in the then colonies. The Fourth Amendment is due to the cruel and unusual punishment that the Puritans used to do in the Massachusetts Bay Colony. Second Amendment was due basically to what other colonists would do to those in Maryland, because they had a different faith, and also other people who were theistic. They believe in an upper being, but they don't believe in the church. Or basically, science theist, as I am, I believe in an upper being, but I also believe in science. But I'll attend the church, but I can't be a regular member of a church, because basically there's some issues that I've run into that I just prefer not to run into again. Well, let me know what you think. The best way to reach me is on YouTube, Facebook, X, and also Pinterest. Well, this has been my video blog on AI and the need for a more playful society and a more open society. Thank you for listening, and I'll talk with you soon.